Live. And we're live. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of the Moment podcast. I'm your host, Basareas, and or Short Bass, and I'm here today with Lynn, Raine, and Zorbo. And we're going to talk about Princess Mononoke. And so from a Jungian lens, but also some folklore and other elements as well. And I'm gonna go through some of those main points of the movie itself from Studio Ghibli. I don't know if you guys wanna start off with anything in particular.
Well, I think just like how you had in your flow notes with the history, but let's Zorbo, you can put your 2 cents in.
I just wanted to take a moment to say I love this movie so much. The animation is just beautiful, and Studio Ghibli definitely delivers. So let's break down the walls of these symbolism, like the Onishigiri. What's the name of the demons? I was watching the Japanese subtitles and I'm forgetting the Japanese names now. Anyway, let's break down some walls.
Yeah, I think you mean the Tataragami.
Yeah, that's the words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was mentioning to Bass, I thought that there was something very poignant about the symbolism at the beginning of the movie with the Tatorigami. You can see it slowly creeping through the stones and the walls, filling in the cracks and oozing out, as well as seeping over the wall itself, the barrier between nature, or chaos and order, we'll say, or nature and very poignant civilization, and
yeah.
And see it creeping, and then it just, out of like a flood, it just kind of bursts through, breaks down the wall completely.
Yeah, and
they definitely put a lot of detail into that.
Yeah, I really feel so, and there's many more elements as well regarding the movie itself. That has a lot of little details. Like if you know more about like the folklore or the mythology, that really reveals more of what's going on in the movie, more than just would be visible at like a first glance. And
I was also very surprised at how much like actual history was going into it as well. I always just kind of pictured it more as like a folk tale, but which I mean it is, but there is kind of a vague time setting that it is in. Like, we watched those 2 YouTube videos about it, or 1 or 2. Maybe we can stick those in the description or something. But like this Emishi clan is actually based off of. Do they call them Emishi in the movie?
Yeah, Emishi, yes.
But it's very much based off of a real group of people. It is like more the more indigenous tribes of Japan before this kind of large first dynasty and central power comes in. To my understanding, this kind of seeps in through China and Korea, or at least, like that style of rulership.
Yeah.
So you have these kind of, the followers of the old way and of nature with the Emishi specifically, although there were a handful of them in Japan at the time.
Yeah.
And so they lived in peace for a while with the Emishi and all of the sort of native tribes, but then this Yamato family kind of starts taking over, and as conflict starts around 7th century, as you have in your notes base, that seem to pretty much check out. And then, not all the Emishi were eradicated or killed. Plenty of them were integrated and chose to, go into this kind of social order voluntarily. But we see basically by around 1000 AD, all these clans, including the Emishi, are basically wiped out. At first, the Emishi are the stronger of the warriors, but eventually these undisciplined Yamato recruit the Bushi from the Kanto Plains. And I didn't fact check this one, but I don't think it's a stretch to connect Bushi to Bushido. And it is historically relevant that this class or clan or whatever they are, people would eventually become the samurai. So it begins with where history kind of turns into folktale, where we have this kind of mythical remnant of the Emishi and Ashitaka as their last prince. And the time zone is a bit vague, a bit malleable, but it seems like it's probably set somewhere during the Sengoku Jidai, which was a period of about a century of civil war amongst these many regional warlords. So this is what the samurai have become, basically.
Yeah.
And this is why when Ashitaka first leaves the village, he sees the soldiers attacking farmers. And it's just a very bloody and unstable time in Japanese history. And my last note for history, and then you guys can chime in and I can move on or whatever. But we do have the Chinese firearms have arrived in Japan. We see Lady Eboshi using these. These were often very unreliable, especially on the move, not very mobile, and archers were still very much preferred. The guns were called fire lances. Now later, historically, the Portuguese would bring over more reliable and advanced Western firearms. But we see, in kind of folktale style, we see Lady Eboshi trying to advance this weaponry for her own gains.
Yeah. No, that's true, and I think it very much sums up the historical context regarding the the movie that Miyazaki had kind of embedded it in next to the folklore, because the spirits, gods, and demons also play a significant role in the movie as well. And that clash that's happening.
And it also reminds me of in the old Pai stories and Indo-European stories, you have this delineation of the class system of people's way of lives, right? You have the shamans and the farmers and the warriors, and we kind of see when these things get out of balance. And in Sengoku Jidai, in this period, obviously they've lost touch with the old shamanic ways, with the old ways of nature, and you have the warrior class run amok.
Very much so. Very much so. And in that sense, it very much depicts in that sense regarding the themes, because some, from what I've looked into, it's about according to some of the videos, it's the central theme of the film is hatred. Even though personally I would also say trust and betrayal might be in there too, with San, and different elements than just that. But that aside, but yeah, it very much seems to be this clash between humans driven by expansion and war, that end up harming nature and then angering the spirits and then clashing with each other. That kind of sums up the broad strokes of the theme. But then it goes much deeper into it. And it kind of in the movie starts off in with the village, and the last of the Emishi. And I don't know, if anyone has still anything to add regarding the historical context, or before we would go into the village and the Emishi a bit more, and their way of life.
I was doing a lot of research into as much Shinto and Japanese history as I could handle recently. Unfortunately, there's just not a whole lot that has been translated to English regarding Shinto.
Yeah.
I kind of get it through these secondary sources like anime and stuff, although I'd consider Studio Ghibli a cut above. But I did find out that the word Mononoke, the term Mononoke, is sometimes used interchangeably with the yokai, which are basically a lot of them are very folktale-ish or cryptids,
Mm-hmm.
They're not the kami. They're not the ones that are real well revered or helpful to humankind. They can be neutral, they can be good, they can be very tricksterish too.
Yeah.
So, Princess Mononoke, she is the sort of the leader of these forest spirits. But they all these words kind of resist a strict definition, especially yokai.
Yeah. And it kind of makes sense too, in a more animistic or shamanistic sense. There tends to be not such a rigid distinction between the different spirits. Even ancestral beings, it sometimes gets pretty blurry as well. Between the ancestral beings and then nature spirits and such, where how further back one goes, how less clear this distinction seems to be. And it seems to me more becoming more of I guess in the sense of community. The sense of community becomes more and more part of nature and the ancestors as well, where later it tends to be more separated.
Yeah, they even credited some of the yokai with teaching them how to set broken bones and stuff too. So
yeah,
it's a global theme you see with the Fey folk and even sometimes the giants and stuff.
True.
I guess if we go far enough back, then our ancestors are not human. Because, nature was there before humans. So in a way, nature is our ancestor.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, yes.
You could even say that nature is our mother. From her
That's
womb,
just crazy
we are
talk.
born.
One could say. But with that said, maybe we can dive a bit deeper into the village scene before
Go for it.
the Tataragami scene that comes after. So we start off with the village scene of the the last of the Emishi, and before going into that, I want to just highlight a little bit about the Emishi that I could find out regarding their way of life. And it seems to be very much connected to hunting and gathering, as well as the cultivation of grains such as millet and barley, and they were indeed very connected to nature, so you could classify that as animism in a broad sense, where they would revere the natural world, animals, plants, rocks, rivers, and other natural phenomena, but also, the spirits, that everything, possesses a spirit or essence. But, obviously in Japanese context, it also, goes into Shinto and, Shintoism with the kami and what you were saying, Raine, regarding the yokai as well. And like you said, they were trying to live in harmony with nature, and that's kind of the setting of where the story starts. And in a way, kind of kind of symbolic in a more mythological sense also. How in quite some mythologies, it kind of always starts in some sense in some kind of mythological golden age, or like a kind of a place of harmony with nature before there is some sense of descent into what is coming after in the movie, symbolically. So it seems to echo those kind of themes in some sense as well. And then so there was also the old shrine maiden in the Emishi village as well, Isama, that was there, and who had called everyone back. And then it goes into Ashitaka and the shadow monster, how I could call it, but also really what it's called in the movie. It's the Tataragami, or the curse god, and that's going into that particular scene that you were talking about, Zorbo, where he faces the Tataragami, and in some sense, the Boar god.
I think there's something significant about him being a hunter and a defender as well. When we first see the main character, he's there on the border. He's a watcher on the wall, observing nature, and so of course he, sees this beast come in, and he has to fight it, and then ends up ultimately cursed for, I guess we'll say, his hatred of hatred. His hatred of hatred, because by his very nature, he has to, hate the concept of hatred and do what he can to stop it. And ultimately, he has to make a choice. Is he going to kill this beast in order to save the lives of his villagers? And because he does everything he can at the start to avoid falling to its level and avoid killing. He tries to appease it, he tries to reason with it, and nothing works. And then ultimately he has to kill it and ends up cursed for it. I think there's something beautifully poignant and tragic about that.
Well, ultimately this curse is the catalyst for his journey west, and it does start the adventure that creates the new balance. So it is kind of that idea of this shadow or possibly antagonist as the greatest teacher, if you can handle the journey. And then I'll just point out that as far as the boar and the shadow symbolism goes, we see it's full of these, what the boar is cursed with and kind of animates itself as is this writhing mass of black worm-like tentacles.
Yeah.
And from what I have researched, when you go back far enough, it's one of the oldest words we can trace back, with worm also being related to snake. So it's just a whole bundle of shadow symbolism there.
Oh, yeah.
I think they mentioned pretty early on that it's the boar came from the west, where obviously that is where the Yamato clan and all this, societal expansion is going on. And then, of course, later he finds out that it was Eboshi using kind of what one of those videos linked to kind of dark sorcery and old Japanese lore to curse the Boar god so that Eboshi can continue kind of chipping away at that forest and making her own stake in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't it like that there was like they had fired one of those guns at the boar and that was what made it so angry?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that chunk of something in it.
Dark iron.
Metallic.
Mm.
Yeah.
That is an iron ball, a lead, maybe even lead. Depending, that would be worth researching what kind of ammunition they were using. But I think iron and lead, the symbolism would be the same. It's a heavy, dark metal.
Yeah.
But a distinction I want to point out is that the lead was more so the catalyst for what was already within the boar. Because the wolf mother points out later in the film, she had gotten shot and received the exact same sort of wound. But the boar gave in to fear and fled, and the wolf chose to, I guess, carry that burden and continue fighting on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the boars have a plenty of hatred in themselves too, and you see Miyazaki uses like the pig and boar symbolism in a few other movies too, like in Spirited Away.
Yep.
In the beginning, when her parents are turned into pigs and they're just consuming just eating all the food and turning into gluttons.
Mm.
But where Base, I think you had notes for Kodaku, which was that kind of dark sorcery that one video brought up about one possible explanation for sort of that weird dark ball.
Yes, Kodoku, from what I had researched, was believed to be derived from ancient Chinese black magic and something about the use of poison spells.
Yeah, it was like some weird, like it sounded like a cross between black magic and alchemy or chemistry. So, I think it's Miyazaki kind of weaving his storytelling magic. And it does, it seems to be an intersection of black magic and this chemistry, this industrialization that's going on in the area at the time.
Yeah. But from what is kind of known about it, it's kind of like the use of like all kinds of like poisons from all kinds of venomous creatures that they would like put together from like snakes, insects, and all toxic animals they could find, and they would just mix it all, and then they would use that to harm enemies or curse individuals or cause illness and such. So in that sense, that's kind of what it symbolizes. In that sense, cursing individuals. If you think about that, and also think about how a Tataragami is like a curse god. Tataru meaning to curse, and Kami, being god or spirit, then it kind of makes symbolically sense to weave those two together as a symbol of the curse itself. But next to that, it's kind of also seems to have a life on of its own too, because it kind of turns this boar into this kind of almost spider-like creature as well when it's like attacking Ashitaka.
Yeah, and as Zorbo pointed out, Ashitaka like tries to reason, and he doesn't just go out there guns blazing. And I think he even expresses remorse for killing the samurai later that are attacking the villagers. Like, he's not going out trying to tell everybody what to do and how to live their lives. It is very much he's trying to create this new balance and new reconciliation for things.
Very much so. And I think also, with that said, that Ashitaka very much, you can see that throughout the movie as well. He's always trying to not fight, always trying to stop fighting, and do things in a non-lethal manner, and like really trying to fight only as a last resort. And trying to convince them, for instance, with San and Eboshi, that their hatred is blinding them, and I mean, even walking away when he got shot and all that. So it's like he's consistently, in that sense, trying to mediate between these forces without trying to, like you said, impose anything or try to do anything more, like to cause more harm.
Yeah, nearly all of the fights in the film, he says, "Let me pass," and they refuse to let him pass, but he must. So then that's how the fighting starts, or he'll say, "Leave me alone," walk away, things like that, and it's only when absolutely pressed does he enter into combat.
Yeah.
The vast majority of the time. We do occasionally see, because he's got the shadow sickness or whatever you want to call it, that kind of acts on its own at times. I think it's interesting. He submerges it in water, which seems to alleviate or slow its effects sometimes, but that's obviously not a permanent solution.
Yeah.
And it also kind of shows his selflessness, because it doesn't necessarily seem like curing his sickness is his top priority. Like, it's kind of a secondary thing. Is what is the feeling that I got from it. But
Actually,
the arm.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not necessarily denying it either, but I want to quote. There's a specific part, a specific line when he has confronted Lady Eboshi, and you see the arm begin to act with its own will and take her head. He says, "If I believed that taking your head would free me of my curse, then I would do it, but it would not stop with you."
Good point.
So I don't know. I really don't know though. Because I'm not really sure what exactly his primary motivation is, but I think that the idea of a primary motivation, I don't know. I don't like the idea of a primary motivation, because I think that ultimately he just wants peace.
Yeah.
And he was forced out of his village, and so he's got multiple motivations. He knows that he needs to make peace between the, nature and the Eboshi villagers. He needs to free his curse. At the same time, he wants to help Princess Mononoke in her struggle. And so I don't know.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's all kind of wrapped up together.
Yeah.
See, the arm also reacts on its own to the deer god when he sees it for the first time. That's another instance in which he submerges it in water.
Yeah.
And when Lady Eboshi kind of, he sees her have a mask off moment and sees what she's really about. The hand reaches for his blade, and we also see it give him superhuman strength and agility. He's shooting arrows at people and ripping them in half. And there's that one point in Iron Town where he just bends the blade
Yeah. No, he does. That's just and also the gate as well that he
Mhm.
that he managed to open and yeah, it's kind of pretty wild, like the strength that comes from it. But
Yeah, I always got like shadow integration vibes from all that imagery.
yeah, I would say so.
I feel like in the story, maybe he didn't know a way to really, or if there even was a cure for the curse. So I think that's kind of what he meant. That probably, yeah, taking someone's head wouldn't
No.
stop it.
Yeah, he just knows
So,
he got the call to adventure.
Well, he was told in no uncertain terms that the curse would slowly kill him.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, it was the I guess the shrine maiden who had told him, who was like doing the divination, and who told him about that the curse will slowly kill him. So maybe in that sense, yeah, he kind of saw it coming and was just like, that he might not, find a way to do it, but he, I guess, wanted to make peace anyways.
I feel like he wanted to use the time that he had in the best way he knew how.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he left his village, and then his I think it was his fiance who gave him then the crystal dagger, and then he went towards, well, eventually Iron Town, and then there's the scene with him fighting the samurai that were attacking the villagers and the farmers. One thing I wanted to also like bring up is that from what I've seen is that the crystal dagger apparently is supposedly a symbol of love or a bond regarding that, not just a charm.
Yeah, with his fiance too. We also see something that I like especially about this movie is that like all the women in this movie are like have way more complexity than most of the men. Even Ashitaka kind of comes across as like a flat character sometimes, or just kind of going along with the flow because his fiance, like, they're not supposed to talk to him. They're not supposed to be in his presence as he's leaving the village, and she's like, "No, screw that. I'm going to give him this dagger." And then we see the complexity and conflict with San and Lady Eboshi, and even all the women at Irontown are just way more interesting characters than all the men in this movie. I guess Jigo's pretty interesting. Jigo's pretty interesting though, but he's tricksy.
Very, very much so. There were some Jungians that were saying that he was the self or something, but like I've been looking into it, and there's a lot of like little things about Jigo the Monk. This guy here, I'm gonna just put him on. But like, there's kind of something. It's kind of like a folklore kind of link, because the sandals that he wears are called Tengu Geta, from what I've found, and that's named after the Tengu, which is a creature that has like powerful and dangerous magic that can ruin one's day. And according to the folklore, from what I found out, they disguise themselves as monks. So
Yeah, they're not nice from everything that I've read about him.
Yeah.
And just to backtrack real quickly on the jewel dagger, it almost looks crystalline too.
Yeah.
And crystal, another prominent symbol of the self as well.
Yeah, very much so.
Now
But yeah, go ahead.
sorry. Now I'm thinking Yigo sounds a lot like Ego, and I'm wondering if there is any sort of archetype of the inner self that would want to kill God solely for personal gain. He says himself, he says, every man wants everything, and I'm actually about to have it. And he was willing to kill a literal God in order to achieve that. Then I don't know. I'm not terribly familiar with like id, ego, superego, and all that. But
Well, it's like ego out of balance for sure.
Yeah, there's like
He definitely just cares about himself.
yeah.
And he even like he's good at it too. He's really good at it. You see with the money exchanging scene, and then he even like tricks Ashitaka, like at least to some degree. I think Ashitaka kind of smells what's up, but it's hard to tell because he doesn't talk much. But he kind of Jigo like feigns to be this monk that's has very high morals and has all this disdain for all the mainstream culture when really he's working for the emperor.
Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting that we find out later that the emperor sees this deer god as some like fountain of youth trophy. So mainstream culture is out there, searching for snake oil, basically, and not tending to the balance between all these things. And then Jigo just wants money, and Lady Eboshi tells Ashitaka that, hey, if you behead this deer god, it might cure your shadow sickness.
I don't know, like for me I got like very like kind of like trickstery vibes in a negative sense from Jigo, like for one. But like you might have a point regarding that, like that he does kind of represent something maybe like a symbol of the shadow of that society that it's depicting in some sense.
Yeah, like a product of society. He's definitely egotistical, like ego out of balance kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that ego out of balance, like you said, that's that I mean he perfectly sums up man's hubris, killing God for personal gain. Short-term gain, I'd say, for personal and short-term gain.
Yeah. Yeah, even Lady Eboshi has like a long-term plan. She has a society and a vision. Jigo just wants to get paid.
Feels.
Yeah, but yeah, regarding like a Lady Eboshi, it's because after we meet Jigo, and he's kind of like trying to nudge Ashitaka towards Iron Town, that direction. We first then meet Lady Eboshi before we like meet San, Moro, and other two wolves. And you can say like, yeah, Lady Eboshi for sure is a very complicated character, much as San is as well.
I think she's probably the most complex and realistic character in the story, in my opinion. Very much like a product or symptom of mainstream society. She's freeing a lot of people from a worse fate, because obviously like this civil war and warlords thing is just tearing the land apart, and she's kind of like trying to carve out her own little secure, stable society, but in doing so also turns her back nature. And then, as one of the videos point out, there's all these like subtle hints of her character and her past. It's not like totally laid out, but I had read that she has like a top knot, which is something that only men were supposed to have. And she's obviously very strong and individual, and leading her own pack. And in Irontown, all the women that she rescues, she's rescuing many of these women from brothels and stuff. And she's having them do a lot of the men's work and making the iron and the metals, which a lot of the men scoff at. They say it's making the metals impure.
Yeah, I don't know. From what I've seen, some of the videos and like some of the some of the videos that I've seen were suggesting that she might have been this like Japanese female entertainer that used to like dance dressed as a man, and sang songs. It's called if I'm not butchering it, Shira Biyoshi, I think it's called. And they wear they don't wear like a hat similar to what she does, but it seems to be what some of the different videos who have been looking deeper into into the folklore historical context side seem to be suggesting. And that might be why she's saving these particular women and is treating them better than they would have been otherwise.
Yeah, so I think the context there is, she was most likely raised in the city, in this mainstream society that she's turned her back on. And so when you're raised in these places, you lose touch with nature and lose touch with the old ways and everything. And so now nature seems foreign and scary, basically, or chaotic, And we also see this when Ashitaka kind of rescues those two guys from the river that fell off the mountain when they were attacked by the wolf. And they're scared of the Kodama, right? They're spooked by the Kodama because they know that that big striding heavenly creature that the deer god turns into could be around any corner. And the Kodama are kind of tricksterish. They're Ashitaka asked to be led out of the forest, and he goes, "Are you guys leading me out of the forest? Or are you trying to get me lost?" They're kind of tricksterish characters, but they do help them. But even the forest seems to have some healing powers. Like they get excited when their wounds don't hurt as much. Like the one guy gets excited that his hand isn't broken anymore. So obviously the pain has gone away, but then he moves it quickly and he goes, "Oh, never mind. It's still there. The pain is still there. It's not magically healed, but I do feel better."
Yeah.
And when Ashitaka finally does make it to Irontown with those two dudes, the townspeople are immediately afraid that they may be a kind of yokai because they somehow made it through the forest, Like, did they die and turn into evil spirits, kind of thing?
Yeah, they were indeed like pretty
Spooked.
afraid and spooked. Yeah, and in that sense, like like she's trying to in some sense like industrialize and modernize, but at the same time, she's also trying to create like a different kind of society in like an ocean of war and injustice and what's all going on to like I guess try to create some safe space away from that. But then like you pointed out, like she's still and they're still in some sense disconnected from nature. And then there is this this clash between these two sides, between the forest and this like industrializing force that she to some degree also represents. You can also see in some sense, that she's trying to achieve her ideals through the power of firearms. So it's kind of like, using that to, and one can see from her lens, how it would make sense, but then in a more grander, from a more grander perspective, you can kind of see like how, in a way, it's also kind of misguided. Though she also, has some sense of a character arc, just as San also has.
Did someone mention this earlier? But I'm vaguely brought to mind of Saruman and him using flame and steel to conquer nature around him at the expense of nature itself.
Mm-hmm. In a way, symbolically, it's pretty similar, yes.
Yeah. He's got his own little iron town when he's tearing down all the trees and everything.
But yeah, apologies. I don't know. Did someone mention that earlier?
No, I don't think so.
To be honest, I'm distracted. But I was like, I don't know why. I couldn't get the feeling. I was like, someone already said that, Daniel. Why are you saying that again? Anyway, sorry.
We might have talked about it in the server at one point. It definitely vibes. Like, it's definitely similar symbolism.
Yeah. Symbolism-wise, yes. I would say so. In some sense, she's kind of like an adversary character to some degree, Lady Eboshi, but then also at the same time, there's more to her than meets the eye, so it's very difficult to pin her down exactly. There's some shadow side there, like that can like represent some of the elements from like the wider society that she came from, but then there's also again, like redeeming qualities at the same time as well.
Yeah, she's trying to make her own path forward. In many ways, it's better than what's going on. This, like, a century of civil war that's just wreaking havoc on the land and the common people and everything for, misguided, lofty ideals of honor or whatever's going on with Bushido and the samurai at the time. But yeah, she's as a product of society herself and losing touch with nature. She's also bringing all sorts of her own wackiness into her vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it still seems like she cares about the people who she's working with.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think that the people under her command are her priority, in a sense. And even when she decides to carry forward with the killing of the nature god, she's doing it in service, ultimately, of her long-term goal for her people.
Yeah.
And she's a badass. She's a god slayer.
Yeah, she's like, those ladies can defend themselves. Mm-hmm. I trained them well. And that she did. She did.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. But you still can't go and just expect to kill a forest god and have no consequences.
I think there's something beautiful about the way she loses her arm in the confrontation, because it's the same arm that Ashitaka had cursed, the right arm, and she didn't receive the curse. She just lost the arm altogether.
Star Wars moment.
Kind of, yes. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of also it just brought to mind for me, and it's kind of unrelated, but it's like there's like in different mythologies over the world, like something regarding like a clash between human and a deity, or like I think it was like when humans lose touch with nature and with the land, that often the king, or in this case, like I guess the Lady Eboshi, like they lose a limb, or like they're not whole, and it's kind of like I feel symbolizes something similar in that sense, because the forest spirit, and what it represents is very much from a Jungian lens, the self. So with the death of it, you kind of lose that wholeness. So it also kind of is kind of symbolic of that as well, I feel.
She's got Fisher King vibes.
Yeah.
The king is sick, and it's making the land sick, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Or they're somehow connected.
Yeah, very much so. It's kind of like symbolism-wise that what it makes me think of as well. And you can, in some sense, symbolically also see that with Ashitaka as well. With the curse. Even though he doesn't lose the limb, but it's still symbolically, it's kind of like symbolically connected to the land in a similar manner. Where kind of like the balance needs to be put back in order, and I kind of feel that's kind of one of the many motivations that Ashitaka has, to find out what upset this balance, to get answers. And then in the end, he does learn about what had happened to the Boar god. But talking about complicated characters, there's also San, the character that the movie is called after, Princess Mononoke. So it's also a very conflicted character as well. Very complicated character, I would say.
Yeah, especially from viewing it as a modern audience. I think they do finally lay this out in the movie when Ashitaka is talking to Moro.
Yeah.
The wolf mother. But she is like a product of this old remnant of human society. We like to dress it up in all sorts of euphemisms, but it's usually called like exposure when you had an unwanted child and you sort of left it to nature, either as some function of survival for resources or as a direct kind of offering. So it's really no wonder why she hates humanity. And it also paints these, kind of chaotic, sometimes dangerous forest spirits in a better light, because they took this child in and raised her.
Yeah. And with that said, like symbolically, from a Jungian lens, it's very much like the wild child archetype that's very much at play with her. Raised by wolves, and you can think of a lot of other similar characters too. I guess another male one would be Tarzan, for instance, but there's also in mythology different characters as well, like Romulus and Remus, or other such characters that have such connections. Yeah.
It's said if the wolves were killed, she would return to a normal human form, and that is kind of like the Romulus and Remus thing, where they're getting wolf's milk, and it gives them cutting edge powers.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of wolf-like behaviors too that she especially in the beginning when there's this clash between San and Eboshi that you can see. But then, like over time, I do feel like in the movie we can start to see her evolve, and her more like or I don't know, her coldness towards humans is changing, which is like she is like capable of compassion, and we can see that. It's just slowly she develops this bond with Ashitaka, and then extends that.
Ashitaka shows her
Yeah.
compassion, and it starts to have its effect on her.
Yeah.
I'm not always great with the Jungian terminology, but I definitely got like split anima vibes with San and Eboshi. Like these kind of two very prominent female figures, but they're kind of headed in different directions, right? Both both suffer from a lot of inner conflict. San is human, and yet she fights against humanity, having been raised in the wild. And then Eboshi, very much raised in society and fighting against the wild. Like if you could get sort of Eboshi's logic and San's instinct and reverence for nature together, you'd have a pretty established feminine archetype, I guess.
I would think so, yes. And it seems to be kind of like the, one of the symbolically like tying into like kind of the theme of the movie itself. It's kind of like this split between the more like I guess industrial, technological, but also like I guess intellectual, logical, pure rationality kind of side. Even though Eboshi still has some sense of compassion. Like she has compassion as well towards these different people. It's not completely as black and white, but there is like definitely a split between that, because it's like not, I guess, like a sense of higher empathy where it's like extended to both nature and humans, but it seems to be like at first like isolated or like to humans. Like with Eboshi and the nature and the nature spirits and the animals with San, where we can see later that Eboshi does say that seems to build up some kind of, I guess, appreciation or like connection towards both the wolves and San, like a sense of respect. So that's so there's some inkling of like of it coming together in the movie as well, but like definitely like split anima. If we would like take this as like take it like that, then definitely like Ashitaka could be seen as like the hero archetype or the mediator, and then he's trying to like figure out how to, I guess, symbolically get this split resolved, and that's kind of what he's doing in the movie as well. Like he's trying to resolve the conflict between both nature and humanity. And he's trying to find some sense of balance between both. But so what do you all think regarding that? Regarding like both San and then also Eboshi, and this like this tension between both, because in the beginning there was this kind of conflict that was hinted at, like there was longer standing.
I guess they're kind of projecting their own shadow on each other. Why they don't like each other. Like, it's what they have disowned about themselves.
Yeah, 'cause, seems like Eboshi just sees San and nature as just more chaos than exactly like the chaos that she came from in society and with
Yeah.
the warring states and everything. So, and then San sees Eboshi and society is kind of this cold, heartless system that left her out in the woods.
Yeah, and that's at the same time like harming nature, and that's what has like taken her in. And in that sense, she kind of also symbolizes in her own way, like living in harmony with nature, but like kind of feel with Ashitaka that like he's like where he's coming from, there's still like this balance between both that's kind of more integrated, where then in the more setting in the more in the west regarding like Iron Town, it's more it's split.
Yeah, but like you can see that Ashitaka is still like has been affected by
Yeah.
this split, even though it's not in him personally maybe so much, but like that is happening around him, and that kind of brings to mind like the interconnectedness of all things. Like even if in your own personal life you have a good balance, then still like the imbalance in the world can affect you.
Yeah. And maybe that's kind of also what the curse represents, maybe in a way.
Yeah, it is like I see it as heroic that he is going out and like doing what he can to try to bring that balance back.
Very much so. It very much is. I mean, it's for sure not an easy thing that is trying to do. But then again, from a Jungian lens, like individuation is not really an easy thing to do. So, yeah, in that sense, it's also kind of about like reconciling like an inner conflict in that sense, and in a way that also like an inner conflict on a larger scale also can manifest itself as an outer conflict as well. So it's kind of like indeed connected in that way. But then we also have the female wolf deity Moro, for instance, as well. And the wolves, but then also the boars. And from what we can really see with regarding Moro and wolves also, I feel like they're very much. Well, first of all, I mean, Moro seems to like be. I mean, even though she like, seems to hate humans, she cares, greatly for San. That's also very like a dualistic character too. So it's very motherly and caring, but also willing to defend her pack in that sense. And also pretty, I guess, aware of humans and their tricks as well. So pretty like kind of wise character in the movie, where the boars kind of are a bit of a different bunch.
They're a bit boorish.
Yeah.
But the Moro, the wolf mother, even kind of blatantly accuses Ashitaka of being naive, basically.
Yeah.
In his attempt to fulfill this new reconciliation and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. But then, yeah. And in that, I don't know, I guess in that sense, there's a certain, wisdom to Moro. But then, I guess, Ashitaka, coming from outside has a particular, perspective, like this seeing with unclouded eyes that's been mentioned too within in the movie as well.
Yeah, it's a Moro has a wisdom for sure, but it could also be seen as a bit jaded, you know.
Yeah.
And even if Ashitaka is naive, sometimes that's just sort of visionary spirit that says to hell with the old ways and let's try something new is exactly what you need to make a new whole.
Yeah. Very much so. And then regarding that also, there's something that I still want to bring up about Moro as well in the wolves, that they're called Inugami in the movie as well, and where this is from what I've seen, a dog spirit that possesses people, and dog and wolf seems to be quite interchangeable in Japan, where San calls herself Yamainu, so mountain dog or protector of the forest, mountains, and crops. So I wanted to bring that up too. But I think, Lynn, you wanted to say something?
Oh, just about like that. Yeah, indeed. Like there's wisdom to being flexible and trying to find like solutions that are not too obvious, or like to try to see things in a new way. And I think like I guess Ashitaka was wanting to bring something like that to the dynamic between the town and the forest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, regarding that, like when it comes to this, I still have kind of something maybe on the I mean, we kind of already went a little bit into the Boar clan itself already, and Iron Town, and a lot of these things that I've here, like written down regarding some of the notes that I have, and really like the biggest thing maybe for this episode, like we can see if we want to go still into some of the other elements or not, would be about the Great Forest Spirit and the Night Walker, so the Shishigami. And I kind of feel like that's one of the other like main important archetypes, or like characters in the movie itself. Very mysterious, but nonetheless very important to the story itself.
It seems to be connected to the vitality of the whole system. And I guess like these different groups trying to hunt it down. Maybe that's like a reflection of like them not respecting the forest, and it's like that it has its place, there needs to be that wild area too, but they don't see the importance of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of the last lines when Ashitaka says, life and death are his to take, when he's talking about the deer god. I think someone remarks, well, the deer god is dead. He says something like, it's not really dead. It can't be killed. Life and death are his to take. And you also see the emperor wants to hunt it down for immortality. So there is very much this idea of, the misguided humans trying to harness these cycles of life and death for their own purposes, when this very natural idea of life and death is more of the natural cycle, the eternal cycle that keeps everything going. And in our short-sighted individuality, we want to try and warp that to never die for a literal immortality.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the Shishigami, so the forest spirit, or kind of like what it from what I've seen, what Shishigami really means is beast god, or the god of all the animals in the forest. Is kind of in the movie, I feel very much, because of that dualism between life and death, between like the Shishigami and the Nightwalker. So the Daidara Bochi, very much, the archetype of the self, with like life and death, immortality and invulnerability, reincarnation, power over life and death, and all that.
And it also has a very human-like face, which is something a lot of the yokai had too. It gives me Uncanny Valley vibes. That thing always kind of, struck awe, but also kind of creeped me out a little bit. But when I was reading up on Confucius a little bit, so I haven't really read this anywhere else. This is just kind of my own kind of interpretation of things.
Mm-hmm.
But there was very much this idea of heaven and earth, and heaven had an anthropomorphic embodiment, and it very much looks like that Nightwalker. You see, he's got like, it almost looks like he's got cosmic energy or stars within him, and starts sparkling and everything. And in a lot of Taoism and Confucianism, there is this kind of like tripart separation of everything, I guess. It's heaven, earth, and humanity.
Yeah.
And again, with heaven being kind of personified, and Confucius believed he was working for this personification of heaven. A lot of times the emperors also believe that, to like maintain this mandate from heaven, but seems like they had kind of a different way of doing it than Confucius,
Yeah.
But yeah, very much like a cosmic man, cosmic blob kind of vibes.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. But there's that kind of deer symbolism too, where deer are kind of in Shinto religion considered like the messengers of the gods too. And like, there's this Kirin, like some link it to the Kirin, so the Kirin from like from China to some degree too. That's kind of also a symbol of the self.
Yeah, you break that down into the two words, ki or chi, which is the life force, and lin, which I think there's a few definitions, but one of them was just forest. I think that's probably the most apt in this case.
Yeah.
And we also see deers being sort of a symbol of sanctuaries with Artemis and stuff too. So
yeah. Yeah, and from what I saw with the Nightwalker, it's also considered a yokai as well. So a gigantic one though. I think it poses as a mountain range when sleeping. So it's kind of it's quite the massive spirit for one, I would say.
A massive spirit of place, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems that Miyazaki has like taken these both of these, so the Great Forest Spirit and also the Nightwalker. That's kind of more like separate things into one in the movie.
Was never able to dig up anywhere where Miyazaki was talking about Carl Jung, but it definitely works.
Yeah, I feel like it as well.
Might just be through via Shintoism or something, but
It very much could be.
it's an apt lens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the end there, like, you can see how the forest is then reborn too. So yeah, that does really bring that death and rebirth kind of energy to that figure. Or shows it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just put on the screen here also the Nightwalker, and there's the uncanny face that you've been talking about, Raine. But yeah, very, very, very much so. Lynn. Ha.
But yeah, I mean, I guess in a way the cosmic energy is working together with the earth energies, and that's really like where they meet is where life happens, and really we can't eradicate either without getting an imbalance or try to harness it just for what we deem important. Like kind of to find that humility about us being part of it, not the head of it, or like that we can't just take over the head and harness it for whatever. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. That's kind of what wait. Yeah, I can show you here. Like, here's Eboshi trying to attack the grove there, and like taking the head. In the end, it just caused a lot of destruction by trying to do so. But then from that though, once the head was restored, you could also see at the end how it came back. Even though like the Kodamas, there was only one left at the end, but nature came back, like it revitalized nature through its sacrifice, and then it could grow back. And in a way, for me, it kind of it being like more of an old growth forest is kind of like why it was there in the first place.
Yeah, I think it also shows, he's trying to say that, nature will outlast humanity.
Yeah.
We might kill ourselves off or be killed off or whatever, but this nature's been around a lot longer than we have been here, as Lynn said, and it will be around a lot longer after we are gone, most likely. And another creepy, cool thing that I noticed last night when I was watching it, like with the deer god.
Yeah.
Usually, when he's walking around, he's kind of has the eyes on both sides of his head, like more of a forest animal, right? In one scene, when I think he was looking at Eboshi as he was about to have his head blown off, and his eyes pushed back into the center of his face like a human or a primate. So like even the eyes move between sort of like older forest animals and primate or human. It was weird.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I think that was when it was like shape shifting into the Nightwalker.
Yeah. But yeah, with the Kodama, I think even Ashitaka says, it's a sign of the forest's health. And what's the guy's name? Jigo.
Yeah.
He says that in that forest, the animals are still giants. It's like it's the only place left in Japan where the forest is healthy enough to where these spirits are, and where the animals are still huge.
Yeah. Regarding the Kodama, also something that I happened to see regarding that is that they in the folklore appear as like these floating lights around trees. Like that's kind of like how they're actually depicted or like seen. Yeah. Go ahead, Lynn.
Oh. I guess it reminds me a bit about then like some sort of tree spirits or.
Oh yeah, that's what they are. They're connected to the trees, so they're like dwelling in the trees and they're connected to it. So if you harm the tree, you harm the Kodama, so the tree spirit. It's kind of what they are.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me personally, it's kind of like it's kind of like still possible for something like that to come back. It is possible for it to grow back to more of that kind of like old growth kind of forest again, and to yeah
it just requires I guess the shift in perspective to bring that respect back, respecting the world, respecting nature, and giving it its space too.
And with that said, like I don't know if y'all have anything more to add regarding that, but I feel like for me at least, like that kind of very much touches upon a lot of the important points of the movie itself. The both themes and these different important characters in it.
Well, there at the end too, like Don't Sun and Akitasha, they return the head to the spirit.
Yeah.
And then the curse is lifted, isn't it?
Yeah. No, that's true.
And then I guess they, together with the Iron Town, Eboshi and everyone there, want to try to build something new, I guess, in the aftermath.
Yeah.
Sun still wants to stay with the wolves in the forest area.
Yeah. No, that's correct. Even though I think that Ashitaka wants to visit Sando. So I'm still gonna visit her while helping Eboshi rebuild. So it kind of becomes like still again like a mediator between both the sides. It's kind of like both sides kind of like got like both sides had to kind of like rebuild like both nature and Eboshi with her village, her town.
Yeah, hopefully they want to kill each other a little bit less after the events of the movie. We'll see, maybe for about 10 minutes.
But very much so. But I do think like overall, the movie very much, is about and that's kind of like very obvious about the movie itself, depicting what happens if we lose this sense of balance with nature, and it's very much like a heavy Shintoism inspired movie itself, I feel. So
yeah. And from what I've heard, Shintoism is pretty much a shamanic tradition in some sense.
In some sense, yeah. Yeah, with like animistic elements as well in it, and but looking at the movie, there's a lot to it, also from a Jungian lens. But go ahead, Raine.
I was just gonna say, it seems like animism and shamanism kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, they do.
Because shaman would be a kind of a class of people within animistic societies.
Yeah, very much so. Without like an animistic base, there's kind of no shamanism, because they're kind of do go hand in hand. Even though not all animistic cultures have like shamans and stuff like that, but they do go hand in hand if there is shamanism. So yeah. But do also think regarding the movie itself, we can kind of see how there's this conflict between like maybe like ego and shadow, and this like attempt at to reconcile both in that sense, but also like at the same time humanity and nature, and there's all these different dualities that are being that are trying to be resolved within it, throughout this hero's journey, to find that balance again between all these different dualities, and to build something that can find that sense of balance between all of that. Yeah. And I feel like it's kind of in a way like what we're exploring a lot in the Fox Den and the Moment podcast as well, with all these different teams kind of like trying to figure out that kind of balance between all these different dualities, and to find that a middle path, or between all these extremes or dualities.
Integrate them in a way like that they can complement each other instead of oppose each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And in a way, kind of like, in a way, everyone, and I guess like for society itself too, with like everything that's going on, with like the more societal things, but also, like society and nature, and all of that. We're kind of we're all kind of like playing that role that Ashitaka was playing in our own life, or like we can play any of the other rules too. But in a way, I feel like trying in our own life to walk that kind of path, to find to try to find some sense of balance in our own way is for me, at least personally, something worth striving for.
Yeah, and to find ways to contribute.
Yeah. And with that said, I don't know if you have anything still to add regarding this, or otherwise I would say to end the stream for this episode.
That about covers everything for me. Yeah, the second half of the movie is just a lot of resolution of the elements that were introduced in the first half for the most part.
Yeah.
But we definitely see a lot of expansion on this concept of the deer god and what it means to the forest and the people's relationship with it.
Definitely. And in a way, it kind of reminds me of a lot of the deities of the animals in the forest, or other such animistic deities that are in all kinds of different cultures.
Yeah. I want to thank everyone for listening, and for everyone who joined in. And it's a great movie.
Good talk as always. Maybe we can pick another Studio Ghibli movie.
Yeah,
there's
go ahead.
A shallow pool of movies that are actually worth watching and talking about, and we're running through them pretty quickly. But there's at least a couple other Studio Ghibli movies we could do.
Definitely. I think me and you, Lynn, I think had said something about Nausicaa of the Valley, for instance. It's one of the other ones, but there's some other good ones for sure too. I mean, who knows? We can say regarding that, if we would touch upon any of the other ones as well.
I think that was his first movie. That's a good one.
Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah, very powerful movie.
Yeah. But yeah, with that said, like Lynn said, thank y'all for listening and for watching, and if you're interested, you can join the Fox Den and check out what we're all about. You can also check out Lynn's channel Mostala, and then also Raine. I think you also have a channel.
There's nothing up on it, but maybe someday.
Okay.
But yeah, join the Fox Den. You can talk to me there, and thanks all.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining as well, Lynn, Raine, and also Zorbo. If you will listen to this later, because he had to leave a bit earlier, but definitely always a real pleasure talking with y'all.
Likewise.
Same. Thank you.
Okay. And with that said, I'm gonna end the stream. Okay. Bye-bye.